Hey guys, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Someone could reply. Just let me know that you can hear me, and we shall begin. Hello? Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? So we've had an interesting week, a lot going on. When Binance? The question to be expected, I'm sure. So we've had a very active week, a very busy week here at Sparkster. We're actually working on some very important stuff. So, last week we kind of talked about governance nodes and what some of you might refer to as master nodes. And so we're exploring kind of how we might be able to some of the needs that governance nodes or master nodes would fulfill. So for example, they would fulfill the activities of a boot node. So if you have a mobile phone or a desktop computer, how does it know where the network is that when it wants to join the network? So boot nodes can provide that information, and there's a lot more than that. But essentially, we're looking at the mechanics of how we might incentivize people to act as master nodes in the network. So hopefully, there's more to come on that. We've also been working hard this week on the foundation itself and understanding kind of how we might be able to take that forward. So to give you some examples of some things that we're working on with the foundation, we're thinking about kind of three sections to the foundation. One being a corporate alliance, which enables Fortune 500 companies to join the foundation and essentially participate in the governance of the organization and the governance of the blockchain. But also contribute in terms of, projects that we might work on and develop together in that capacity. And also, steering committees, oversight committees that they can participate in. Another section that we're looking at is an R&D component where we would partner with universities and partner with professors around the world and maybe entrepreneurial organizations within universities and work on research to improve or kind of build upon the research that we've done internally. I think this is important to the long-term success of Sparkster and for kind of, gaining credibility amongst the Fortune 500, if you will. A lot of what we're doing and a lot of what we're thinking about is how do we facilitate Fortune 500 companies to adopt Sparkster, right? Which is a little bit different, of course, than just adopting general users. And I shared a picture late last week about one of our users who's being trained by us personally to use Sparkster. And so that's important, right? What's important about that is that we're doing the work of customer adoption. Right? We're not just talking about customer adoption. We're doing the actual work of customer adoption. And so I shared a picture of, one of those users meeting with our team in our offices and being trained or learning how to use the Sparkster platform. So, hopefully there'll be more updates about that and kind of where that goes and what's happening. The third section is the innovation fund and the innovation component of our foundation. And so just to be clear, I'm sharing with you our internal thoughts on the Sparkster Foundation, right? But there's kind of three sections here: Fortune 500 and the governance of the environment, research and academics and universities and professors, and then finally the innovation fund, where again, we work with companies and work with people that want to build things on top of Sparkster and fund them and support them to be able to make that happen. So we're also in that vein of things, we're looking at who we might be able to partner with and who we might be able to work with. And there are a lot of entrepreneurial organizations around the world that support, essentially support entrepreneurship, right? So we're looking at how we might be able to partner with them and so forth. I don't want to give you any names and then give you expectations, but we're talking about some pretty big organizations. Okay, so one thing I do want to speak about is some news that I saw earlier today. Well, I'm sorry, not earlier today, yesterday, about another company in the cloud computing space, a company you may have heard of, a company called Dfinity. And as I was reading this article, a major venture capital company from Silicon Valley called Andreessen Horowitz, some people call them Anderson Horowitz, have invested significantly, if I'm not mistaken, to the tune of $60 million in this cloud computing company. Right now, naturally, Sparkster is also a cloud computing venture. And from what I got from reading that, reading that article, was that this company is valued at $2 billion. And when I read that, I thought, wow, a company that's extremely well known in Silicon Valley, Andreessen Horowitz, has invested in a company with a value of $2 billion. And we are valued at $30 million. Even today, even in today's market, because our tokens are locked, we are still valued at $30 million, right? And not $3 million had we unlocked. So what does that tell you? That tells you that, the difference between 2 billion and 30 million is 70x. 70x. And one of the most renowned firms in investing in startups thinks that that's a meaningful value for a cloud computing startup. But that should tell you that we are onto something very, very big. We're onto something huge, right? And as someone mentioned earlier in the group today, we are indeed community-owned and community-backed 100%. If you have any questions about that, go to Etherscan, type in SPRK, look at the contract, then look at the holders of the contract. The largest token holder has 0.15% of the tokens. So that's, not even 1%, not even 0.5%, not even 0.25%, right? But approximately 1/8%. So 1/8 of 1% is the largest token holder in Sparkster. So we are truly community owned, right? Someone asked above about ARM. What's the definition, or what specifically are we doing with ARM, and how will ARM utilize Sparkster? Well, what we've built for the ARM community is we've built a platform that allows people to build IoT devices without writing code. And so essentially we're supporting MVPs and people to make things using ARM devices, IoT devices, and IoT applications using ARM devices quickly and efficiently. And in fact, what I'm going to be speaking about, if you go to the ARM TechCon website, my speech is now listed on their website. So I'll be speaking at ARM TechCon in October. And what I'm going to be speaking about is why blockchain and IoT are such a great partnership for one another. Why blockchain and IoT should come together. And to give you a gist of what that conversation is really going to focus on, although I don't want to spoil it for you because we will hopefully be publishing it here, I'm going to be speaking about essentially how it's, if we live in a world where our lives and our safety is in the hands of IoT devices, right? Well, how do we know that those IoT, if someone is killed or if something happens, a building burns down or something, how do we know, right, that the IoT device did the job it was supposed to do? Maybe the IoT device is controlling a fire suppression system, and that fire suppression system is responsible for keeping people alive, right? how do we know that the IoT device didn't fail? Well, if that information that comes, or those instructions that come from the IoT device to instruct the fire suppression system to turn on, if that communication is logged in a blockchain, this is how, right? This is how we get public verifiability. Think about the insurance company in that situation. The insurance company can know that the IoT device did what it's supposed to do. The fire suppression system did what it's supposed to do, and therefore, the insurance company should pay out, and things didn't go wrong. So what I'm really saying is, if we're going to put our lives in the hands of IoT devices, this level of public verifiability and trust is critical. And naturally, with IoT devices spewing out so much data, you need an environment like Sparkster. You need an environment like Sparkster with its incredibly high TPS to be able to receive, process, and transact that information and store that information. If you try to use, many other projects, I won't say all, but many other projects, you'll have a problem, right? Meaning that you won't be able to ingest that data, and naturally people will abandon those projects. So that being said, I'm going to turn to Menti. If you haven't seen the code for Menti, it's 44810. And I'm going to look through some of your questions. So do I have a rough time frame for unlocking? Well, at the end of the day, in terms of unlock, what we've said stands, right? Unlocking is not a decision that's made based on my feelings or my reading of the market or some guru's reading of the market or a TA or anybody else, right? When the market supports the listing of ICOs specifically, that's when we'll know that it's a good time to list. If we list now, right? If we succumb to pressure and we list now, other projects that are listing in this market are losing 80 to 90% of their value, right? So if you've invested 35 ETH, that could be worth 3.5 ETH, right? And so I think that unfortunately, I've said this in the past, our greatest risk is ourselves. Our greatest risk is that we tear ourselves apart, right? Because we can't come together and agree on a way forward. It's kind of like we have the same conversation over and over again. I'm quite surprised that people continue to participate in the group because there's just nothing else that's talked about. Just speculation on when we might unlock. Guys, you don't need to speculate on when we might unlock. Go out there and look at other projects. If you see other projects listing successfully, and what I said is when most, that means more than 51%, more than 50%, 51% of projects list, and there is a retention of value. That means that if the project raised $20 million after the first day, the token's still worth $20 million, right? After a couple of days, it's still worth $20 million, right? Or more, right? When we see that with most projects, we know then it's time to list. Before then, it'd be suicide to go out there and list our token, and the only people that lose in that scenario, guys, is you, the token holders, the community. There aren't VCs to come along and dump on you guys. You guys, at the end of the day, control what happens, right? You guys control what happens, whether we succeed or whether we fail. So, problem with sound. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Okay, good. All right, we continue. So I'll reiterate. If we unlock in this market, it's suicide. I'm not sure what happened to the sound. I apologize. I haven't done anything. But I'll reiterate for those, because I'm not sure what you missed. So if we unlock in this market, it's suicide. We're looking at other projects, right? And other products that are listing. And until we're seeing projects list that have a retention of value, that means that if they raise $20 million, there's still $20 million a couple of days later, if not more. Until we see that with most projects, that's more than 50% of projects, it isn't time for us to list. Because listing now only hurts you, only hurts the people that are token holders, right? You know, we're seeing projects that are listing now that are losing value, 80 to 90% of their value. If you invested 35 ETH, that might be worth 3.5 ETH if we list now. How is that good for anybody? How is that good for anybody? I don't see it, right? So, you know, someone might say, well, you know, no one's listing because everyone's waiting for everyone. But that's not true. Someone listed this week, right? Because unfortunately, projects succumb to the pressure of the community. This is why I'm not giving you a date on when we might unlock, because I can't predict the future. And I don't want to give you false expectations and give you a date in the future. And if that date comes around and the market isn't good and we list on that date, well, what was the point of waiting? Everybody loses, right? So I'm trying to be real with you guys, right? Let's wait for better market conditions. And that's all there is to say. When the market supports listing a token, then we know it's time to list. And that time will come. That time will come. You have to have faith. But I want you to understand the long-term perspective of our project, you know? Think about the long-term perspective of the project. Like I said, another company in the cloud computing space has been valued by an extremely respectable, and I mean extremely respectable, venture capital firm at $2 billion. $2 billion, guys, right? That's 70x from our valuation. So what are we waiting for? I mean, sorry, what are we complaining about? We need to wait for the good times, right? And that's certainly what we will do, right? If you know, for some reason something happens, and well, I don't think that, you know, there's anything that's going to happen that's going to force us to unlock. But suppose that we did unlock in this market for some reason, we wouldn't and sell any of the tokens. One, we can't. But two, if we could, we wouldn't, because we know the value of what we're building. We work extremely hard to build, you know, incredible technology, and the future is so much better than what it is today, right? So let's move on from that. Is it a good time to release the tokens? It's a terrible time to release tokens, guys. It's a terrible time. And you know, what you should be looking for is not sitting in our group speculating about when we might unlock or arguing with each other about when we should unlock, right? Look at what's going on with other projects. We're collecting that data. You can look at the same data, right? And you can decide for yourselves rationally, is it a good time to unlock, right? It isn't. Do I have a plan for getting hype back once the market is favorable? Well, hype, I don't know how you measure hype, but I can tell you that we are hard at work in the realm of customer acquisition, right? We are doing the work that I think many projects unfortunately don't do, which is building the product, focusing on bringing users and customers for that product. This morning, I spoke to a major company. This morning, they reached out to us. You know, I spoke to a major company that's in the industry of network equipment, right? I won't say more, but let's just say they're in the networking equipment industry. A major company, not a small company, a massive company. And, you know, we're talking about potentially forming a partnership with this company if they can get their stakeholders to agree. It's the early stages of that, right? But nonetheless, at the end of the day, we will bring about real-world adoption. We work on it every single day, right? There are people dedicated to that endeavor. So, you know, what's bigger and better than real-world adoption? I don't know. Will there be open code on GitHub for the public? Absolutely. The blockchain will be on GitHub. It will be public. It has to be for the sake of verifiability, right? Who's going to trust a network that isn't public? But give us time to, you know, get it ready, and then we'll make it available. Can I give some more details on what indicators I'm looking at to unlock tokens? Yeah, so we're looking at does the market support an ICO token listing? And how we look at that is each week there's usually one, generally there's at least one project a week that is listing. We look at how does it perform over the course of that week. Does it go below ICO price? If it goes below ICO price, well, it's not a good time to unlock, right? I think that the times are nearing. I think we are going to see a return in confidence. I don't know when, but I think it's near, if I were to guess. When the time comes, it won't be my opinion that will make that decision. It won't be a TA, it won't be a guru, or it will be data that tells us that it's time. And at that time, well, that'll be the time to bring about the project to the market, right? And I tell you something, right? At the end of the day, the success of the project, in terms of listing, depends on whether or not we can stick together. Because if we can stick together, we're going to succeed. We, as in you guys, are the token holders. The company and you guys are the token holders. And the largest token holder, there's nobody that has enough of a holding of the tokens that can cause significant price movements or that can hurt somebody else. Think about that. How many projects do you know of where there isn't somebody that's waiting to sell their tokens to someone else downstream who's another token holder, right? Maybe a seed round trying to sell to the crowd sale guys. That isn't the case here, because the largest token holder has 1/8 of 1% of holdings. How comes the OKX vote was announced so late by the Sparkster team? We found out about it late. There's nothing else I can say. I apologize that, we didn't know about it sooner. But the truth is we found out about it late, and then it took some time to apply and get approved and then get listed. However, if you guys see such opportunities come about, register us, right? If we miss it, register us. Please, we're together in this, right? We're one here. So, we're not omnipotent. We don't know everything. And the reality is we spend most of our time hard at work on building the technology and working out and speaking to customers, engaging people in using the product, right? Building training materials, all of that stuff. So from time to time, there's things we miss. So if something happens that we don't know about and you don't see us there, help us out. If there's a way to register Sparkster, please do that. Do I have any information why I'm purposely withholding the tokens until the market is more positive? Yeah, I'll tell you exactly why I'm holding the tokens until the market is positive. Because the people that believe in our project and the people that support us on our long-term mission will get hurt, meaning they'll lose a significant portion of the value of what their tokens are worth if we list right now. That's not because I don't believe in the project. Has nothing to do with. I believe in the project more than anyone else. I wouldn't be here every week if I didn't believe in the project. Hard at work, investing our money, and I'm not talking about the ETH we collected from you. Let's be clear. Sparkster is currently being paid for out of my pocket every single day, every single month. We're talking about $100,000 a month that comes out of my pocket, right, to pay for the Sparkster team. We have not sold the ETH, right? But we have put in place some protections, but that's a different story. Protections are different to selling the ETH, right? So Sparkster is paid for, and its entire infrastructure, 3 offices and all of its staff are paid for out of my pocket every single month, right? $100,000 a month. So, I'm holding on to the tokens because the people that believe in our project will be hurt, and it has nothing to do with whether I believe in the project or not. It's the reality of the market. The market doesn't support listing of tokens today. I didn't do that, right? Let's be clear. I didn't make the market go down. Sparkster has nothing to do with that. It's the unfortunate reality of the market we're in. That's where we're in. It's not good for you. It's not good for us. I don't want our community fighting with each other over this. The last thing I want is to hold on to people's tokens unnecessarily for no reason, right? But it isn't a good time to list tokens. Look at the data. It's not my opinion or anybody else's opinion. Look at the data. Thumbs up if you're a true believer. I'm happy to link Sparkster with top universities in the UK for academic research. Whom should I contact? You should contact Shabir Kirmani. He is SSKIR1 on Telegram. And if you message me on Telegram, I will give you his email address. But thank you, and we would truly appreciate your support with connecting us with top academic organizations or universities in the UK for research. This is absolutely the sort of support that we would really appreciate from the community. Have I taken a look at the next ICO? It's one of the ICOs that we've looked at, you know, in our advisory group. But I'm not going to speak about the specifics of any group, right? Because that's not fair to them and it's not fair to us. My opinions on any other project are irrelevant. You'll notice that I didn't give you an opinion on the Definity project. As far as I'm concerned, everybody who's working in the crypto space to improve and build, you know, a meaningful awareness of what we're doing and builds real and valuable solutions, they're to be respected. Whether they're a competitor or not, they're to be respected. Someone earlier on said we should organize hackathons. It's actually on our list. It's something that we want to facilitate through the foundation. So thank you for the idea. If you know any, if you can facilitate that, we'd love to hear from you. Autonomy is working on IoT. Look what happened to ATMI price. Is that because of the market or is that because of, you know, IoT? You know, IoT is becoming ubiquitous. I walk around London. I live in London. I walk around London and I see IoT in so many places. I see it in parking garages. I see the government monitoring air pollution using IoT, and I could see it because I know what I'm looking for. You know, I know what this industrial equipment looks like. So I don't think there's anything to do with IoT. Someone asked which VC was I talking about? Andreessen Horowitz. Some call them Anderson Horowitz. They are one of the most famous VCs in Silicon Valley. One of their founders, Ben Horowitz, wrote a book that I recently read called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. You guys are into reading those sorts of books. It's a phenomenal book, and I certainly recommend it. No new partnership announcements. We're working on partnerships. We work on partnerships all the time. I just spoke about one earlier today, right? In this AMA. So, you know, they're real, right? They don't just come out of magical air. We have to actually work hard on making them a reality. So, you know, understand that these things don't come out of the air. They have to be inculcated. I'm looking through the chat here for some questions. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the bottom. Someone says they prefer to lose 80%. Well, I don't think, like I said, you know, the listing, I mean, the unlocking is at our discretion, right? And we are not going to be irresponsible and cause people to lose 80%. We are not going to be, you know, If we don't unlock, you're unhappy with us. If we unlock, you're going to be unhappy with us, right? So it's better that we retain 100% of the value of your tokens in this period and unlock in better conditions. That's what it comes down to. It's a difficult decision, but a decision that ultimately needs to be made, right? We have to act in the interest of our project, and if I have to choose, I'm going to choose to act in the interest of the people that believe in our project. Someone's asking, Mark is asking, are we looking for use case suggestions from the community, or are we looking only for suggestions for large companies? No, we absolutely want suggestions from you as a community. In fact, we announced an innovation fund for those that don't know. And in this innovation fund, we announced that essentially we would support and fund the development of projects that are built on top of Sparkster. Right? We're going to be releasing an application form for that shortly, but right now the way to apply is to email hello@sparkster.me, but we're going to be releasing a formal application process for that. So absolutely, if you've got things you want to build and you've got ideas of things you'd want to build on top of Sparkster, we want to hear from you. There's no doubt about that. When you can test out the working version of the walkthrough apps. Soon. The first step to that is the innovation process. We want to make sure that, it's a controlled process to begin with, because otherwise, it could be mayhem. We may not be able to support the number of requests we get for user support and project support and questions and things like that. And that would take a toll on our development team. It would slow down our development and impact the delivery of our mainnet in Q4. So we want to do this in a controlled way, which is why we're asking people to apply through the innovation fund. How are we doing with the decentralized cloud? We're making phenomenal progress. Earlier this week, we announced that, I think it was earlier this week, we announced that that we had achieved compute nodes that are able to execute a transaction in 5/10,000ths of a second. You take a second, you divide it into 10,000 pieces. 5 out of 10,000, 10,000ths of a second is how fast we're able to execute a function. And that's because we've worked hard on optimizing the performance of our compute nodes. And as you know, the design, the architecture of our blockchain enables us to achieve unparalleled TPS. And I mean unparalleled TPS. 10 million TPS, if not more, right? There's no theoretical limit. There's only what I would consider to be a practical limit. So when you combine the two together, you have an extremely fast and high performance and high throughput blockchain for cloud computing. That's why I think ultimately we're going to be the winner of this space. Quark Chain listed in a bear market and did 22x. The price of ETH wasn't $275 when they listed, right? You believe that Sparkster can do better. What do I think? Well, I'm not able to speculate, as you know. I'm subject to certain rules, and speculating on the price of our token is one of the things I'm not able to do. Bounty program end date. We're actually looking at that, and hopefully we'll be giving some more information about that soon. So do bear with us. Hype is dying. Even Belina said 5x max. Well, I can tell you that I speak to Ian frequently, very frequently, and he hasn't suggested anything like that to me. Was there a test net in which we were able to achieve 52,000 TPS? Yes, absolutely. There's a live YouTube video that we conducted this live on YouTube, and there's a video on our YouTube channel. Check it out. You'll see it. It was part of an AMA, which I believe was on July 1st. And you'll see the live AMA, and you'll see the community questions, so it was live. And it's part of that. And what we did is we took a segment of that and turned it into a 3-minute video. But it came from a live AMA. How do we manage churn and failure in the network? Well, that's the beauty of blockchain environments, right? When you've got many participants in a blockchain, so one cell for us is a blockchain, right? So when you've got many participants in one cell, if they come and leave, if they come and go, if they leave the network or come back into the network, it doesn't have any impact, right? It doesn't impact availability. So that's not a concern by the very design and nature of blockchains. Blockchain's far better. They got listed on day 1 on Binance. Did they? Did that really happen? Or did they not announce the ICO until they had Binance ready? And then they said, tomorrow morning is our ICO, and then people participated. I think you'll find it was the latter. Again, I don't really want to speak about other projects. It's not appropriate, right? Specifically naming them. The testnet should be open to the public. Yeah, it will be. Absolutely. All right, guys. I think we'll leave it there. 36 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you again this week. And I really request everyone to come together, because we're in this together, right? And like I said, and I keep saying, the greatest threat we have is ourselves. The only threat we have is that we tear ourselves apart. Abraham Lincoln said, a house divided will fall, or I can't remember the exact quote off the top of my head, but think about that. A house divided will fall. So this is the problem we have, guys. Our only threat, it isn't hype, right? We're working on a project that's potentially worth billions of dollars if you look at comparisons with how much other projects are raising. This isn't, when we bring about real customer adoption, there won't be any concerns about whether people are interested in buying Spark tokens, right? The only problem there will be is if we tear ourselves apart before we even get there. Other projects, unfortunately, have succumbed to the pressure of the community, forcing them to give them dates, forcing them to promise unlocks, forcing them to unlock. Let's come together, guys, because together we will be successful. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you soon in the Telegram group. Bye-bye.